So here's my long form review of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Great movie, lots of fun. My knees were killing me towards the end because I was so tense because it doesn't feel like a long movie, but it's a long movie. But it's not a boring movie, and it's way better than like the last Avatar. Like even though it's based on a 5,000-year-old poem, great movie. I couldn't get IMAX. No one can get IMAX. I'm definitely going to try to catch IMAX next week. I'm sure it's going to be in there for a while. It's making way too much money. Every day, every screening is like packed, and I don't unless I want to sit all in the front or all the way in the back. I'm not going to see it. So I'm going to have to wait to catch it in IMAX. Now, the one caveat I have, and it's not this. I don't have a problem with Lupita Nyong'o playing like damn. I just blanked on her name. Helen of Troy. She's a beautiful woman. Africa touches the Mediterranean Sea. It might not be specific to the time period, but again, we weren't there. And I'm going to tell you right now, none of those people, almost none of the beautiful women in this movie would be considered beautiful at the time. They would be considered impoverished or poor because they're so thin. It's the thing we don't have to remember about Homer's time. Fat was in. Fat meant you had food in your home. Fat meant you were eating. So fat meant money. So, hell of a choice should have been bigger. And honestly, it's a controversial opinion, but Elliot Page probably would have made a historically accurate Helen of Troy, believe it or not, because them ancient Greeks, they didn't invent cis, and they were not cis. At least maybe like the only cis men in ancient Greece, the ancient world, were probably the poor people, because rich dudes and rich women had their buddies, their roommates, their best friends, who they spent nights with. But again, Trump America can't handle that. So, but it was a great movie. I definitely want to catch it again in IMAX. If you can catch it on IMAX, catch it in IMAX. They did they cleaved out a lot of the sexuality from it, like Odysseus, wasn't faithful to Penelope, and they kind of glossed over that because like if they really made an honest to the text version of whichever version you want, because there's multiple versions. Because again, I doubt Nolan speaks ancient Greek, can read and write in ancient Greek. No, almost no one can speak it anymore. So, but it would probably be something you'd have to put on like the Playboy channel, and they'd be stretching it for them, because like I said, the ancient people weren't like us. They were not like us. They were people, but they didn't think like us. you know, there's like and some things like they changed some characters around, like because Helen was Spartan, but her husband, I don't believe her husband was. I can't. It's been so long since I've read the Odyssey. I'm gonna read it again. This is gonna make me go buy it again, buy another copy, and read it. But yeah. So like, yeah, the costumes were would be off putting if you were like a archaeologist. But if you look at the old like plates that the Romans and Greeks did, they updated his armor because Odysseus. We don't really know what Odysseus wore if he existed, because again, we don't even know if I think he was a historical character, but again, the Odyssey would be today considered historical fiction. Not in the realms of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, more like Lincoln and the Bido, kind of deal going on. So, but yeah, all the right wing stuff where everyone said like, you can't have Elliot Page play like a hoplite. I'm like, yeah. Elliot Page would be the most popular hoplite. You know, a boy who a, a boy who was as pretty as a girl were really would have been really popular in the legions. But again, but yeah, people and Americans don't want to read the books, so they don't know the truth. Like everything we believe, we're put all this culture war crap we're putting on it. They wouldn't have had that problem. Like racism was really something created by colonialism to help justify what was done during colonialism. And back then, it was just like, hey, I have a sword, I'm better, and a spear and an army, so you're a slave now. Maybe one day we'll let you free. You know, but there was, like you could be like the daughter of a Roman senator on Monday, and by Friday sold into slavery because you pissed off the emperor. If you were lucky, and that's the worst they did to you. But yeah, that's they were very different 5,000 years ago, and all this culture war crap they're talking about now doesn't really translate. If you want to be 100% honest, you know, none of the actors would really fit in. Because they're a bit too big. People weren't as big as There weren't very few people as big as Matt Damon back in the day. All right, was he a big guy? I'm not sure. Maybe not. But like most people were like Tom Cruise size. Like Tom Cruise was like upper height wise because they didn't have like the science we have now to know that you need this to grow, and we didn't put growth hormones in the milk that they don't want to admit anymore, but they're doing. Never mind. Let's stay off the conspiracy crap. But yeah, people were a lot smaller back. Well, not smaller. They would be called short kings. The kings of the ancient world really were, by today's standards, short kings. But yeah, the Odyssey was good. Needed more gay. If you want to be true to the text, it needed way more gay. There was just not. They kind of glossed over that. Those guys in those boats got lonely. But anyway, so that's my review. I give it a thumbs up. Definitely want to see it again in IMAX if I can ever find a seat that isn't like all the way to the back, all the right, all the left, or all the way to the front. If I could find a good IMAX seat, I'm definitely gonna go. But that might be next week or the week after. But I think this is gonna have legs because Homer's Odyssey has legs. We're still talking about it 5,000 years after Homer died. So yeah, it's gonna be up there. Like, I liked it more than Oppenheimer because like Oppenheimer was good, but Oppenheimer wasn't really that likable character. And Odysseus was, even though he was a bit of a horn dog, and I'm going to the spoilers right now. This is my only spoiler I'm going to put in there, but this is going to be life advice for everyone to listen. The longest way to any place on the planet Earth is through a shortcut. Remember that. That's the biggest lesson you can get from this movie. The longest way to any place on Earth is a shortcut. Take care. Bye.